Well, good afternoon. Welcome. This is Troy Cawthron along with Misty Bacon here at the Victory Properties office, and we're here to bring you some information about what's going on in our market. Misty?
Good morning. We are compliant. I've sprayed things down. We have gloves on, and I have a makeshift thing here, but I'm taking it off because I can't breathe.
Okay, that'll work for a couple minutes.
Okay.
You just breathe that way.
I
Okay?
will breathe this
Thank
way.
you.
Okay.
Well, like I was saying, today we're going to be bringing you some updated information that since we're not having our breakfast, the Bay Area Realtor Networking breakfast meeting this week, we wanted to share some important information that we wanted to pass along to you. Hopefully this will be helpful to keep you in the loop of things that are going on in real estate and ways to stay sharp, and when this is over, that you're ready to jump back in and do the best you can in real estate. So I wanted to share with you, I sent out a survey a day or so ago that you may have received to realtors asking about current market conditions on certain things. And here's the questions. Are you currently working or willing to work on showing homes? We had about 40 agents respond, and out of those 40, 60% of them said yes, they're still showing homes at this time. There are some limitations, like some of them were only showing vacant homes, or they only had to be customers that they were currently working with. Some of them are not working with new customers at this time being. Next question, are you currently still listing homes? A little bit of a surprising, I thought that would be a little bit higher number, but 50% of the agents said they're holding off from listing homes, either because they feel like the market conditions are not quite there, or the sellers are not wanting them to put the home on the market currently. So that was interesting. Next question. Have you had a seller decide to take their home off the market for the time being? And out of the 40 agents, 35% of them said they have had homes taken off the market at this time. I personally have had 2 homes taken off the market, and 2 or 3 other agents said they had at least 2 or 3. So there's been quite a few homes that have been taken off the market temporarily till things may settle down a little bit. Next question. Have you had a sale bust because of the credit scoring changes on FHA loans that happened about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago? And 25% said they had had a sale either delayed or bust because of that. So that is influencing our market at this time. Have you had a sale bust because of the loss of job? 40% had said yes, that they've had an issue with that. They went on to explain that of that 40%, they've either lost a job, they've been furloughed, or they're in fear of loss. But most of them said that they've either had a loss of a job or they've been furloughed is the reason for them having to back out on a sale. Next question was, have you had a sale bust for any other reason besides the coronavirus? And there's still about 20% of issues that we normally deal with that would be from inspections, difficulties with the loan and stuff. So there is some movement in the market that's adversely affecting our market, but it should settle down. There were a couple questions that were asked about, and they went like this. What do you see the interest rates as of October the 1st of this year being? 50% of the agents said they feel like the rates are going to stay stable. They're going to be under 4, between 3 to 4%. The other 50% actually said they thought the rates would go up some more because of the uncertainty of the market, and they would be in the 4.5% to 5% range. By the end of the year, where do you think the market will be overall? The choices were it'd be flat, it'd be up, or down. And what we found on that question is it's pretty evenly divided. About 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 were all from neutral to slightly up or down. So that was not a real strong variance in any way. And the last question was, when do you see us getting back to close to where we were before our current virus crisis? 20% of the agents felt like we'd have an immediate jump as soon as we get done with this, and they were talking in May or June. 35% of the agents said they felt like we'd be up by the end of the fall. And then 45% of the agents said they felt like it'd be at the very end of the year to the springtime when things would get back to where we were before. So that's some pretty optimistic rebounding numbers for us, that they're expecting those, we're talking 6 months or less basically to get back on track. I did want to share with you some other important information. Fannie Mae had a news release back on March the 31st. And here's some things that you really need to know. They've made it more convenient and more workable to use power of attorneys, POAs. And they're going to allow those more often and work with people that need to have a power of attorney done. They also said that one of the things they're needing to do is so many people have stocks in the stock market, in different kinds of stocks, that they're going to need to be re-verified prior to closing to see what their status is. So if they verified them back 3 weeks ago, and they verify them they're closer to closing right before it's closing, if there's been a lot of change in that, that could affect the approval. So it's important to keep that in mind. They're going to be more lenient on the verifications of employment. So those are called the VOEs. So a lot of times you have to have somebody physically fill one out. They're going to be more lenient on how those are verified, and maybe even talking to people over the telephone in certain situations if they've shown proof that they have a job in the last week where they've received a paycheck. They may talk to somebody instead of needing written verification. The thing that they're really seeming to have a lot of changes on is self-employment. Folks that are getting Fannie Mae loans, they're self-employed. They're going to be more difficult to do. What they're wanting to check is to make sure that the company, the individual that's self-employed, is open and operating on a regular basis at this time. They're going to have evidence of that going on. Some of the things that you're going to have to be looking at is they're going to be checking websites to see if you're open or closed, or if you're closed temporarily or indefinitely. If it says closed or indefinitely or temporary closed, you're going to have a problem with that. There's other ways that they can have proof of that, which would be evidence of receipts where you're doing business recently, where you've bought things, you've sold things, you've turned in invoices for work that's still happening. They're also going to be calling to make sure that somebody's answering the phone and you are open for business. Those are some really big points that are going to need to be made clear to people that are self-employed so that you don't have a problem with that. A couple of other things that are changes. Appraisers are going to be becoming more and more lenient and flexible on how they're doing the appraisals. I can't speak for all the different types of loans, but appraisals are going to be actually done more by drive-bys. They're going to ask a question: is there any substantial changes to the inside of the home or updates that cannot be seen or appreciated in the pictures that they see on HAR? So if the home looks nice and that's pretty much what you're getting, they're going to do drive-bys on a lot of the appraisals. They're not going to be asking you to go in. That should help on timing as well as safety for everybody, having an appraiser come into your home or them having people that are having issues with the sickness. Also on HAR, on the MLS, we were looking at different areas on the southeast side, and we noticed that there has been a decrease in activity of people visiting HAR, and it depends on the area, the city, but we're seeing anywhere from 35 to 60% reduction in people going to the site looking at the homes over the past week to 10 days. That's not a total surprise, and I think as things settle down, we'll start seeing those numbers go back up. Like I said, that is not overall, that is for our general area in the Clear Lake, Southeast, Pearland, Friendswood, Deer Park area. So keep that in mind. A couple other things. As of today, the rates are running right now on FHA. They're running about 3.25. That's on an FHA, and conventional is running 3 3/8. I've got some more things I want to share with you. I'm going to turn this back over to Misty, and she's got a couple of things she wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Troy. So the census, we talked about the census last month, and that was what our speaker came to talk to us about. But they're not going to be able to go walking around for those that haven't or not in a position to go out to do it. But you can still go online at my2020census.gov. So my2020census.gov. You'll click on the green button that says respond. Click on the blue button that says start questionnaire. And then if you didn't get a mailer, which I did not get a mailer with a code on it, underneath where you would put the code in says, if you do not have a code or a census ID, click here. Obviously you would click there, and it only took me a couple of minutes to do I did it for my mom, my dad, me, and my grandmother, all at separate times. But if you have multiple people living in your home, you can actually add them and only have to do it one time. You don't have to go in for each person that lives in the house. So that was pretty cool. NAR is providing 2 months free for something called telehealth, which gives you access to doctors online to visit with them, and you can get that on the HAR website at the top left. When you scroll or when you log in and go to the matrix, it's at the top left. It's usually where the news and alerts are. There's a link there. You can click on that. Or you can go to NAR and log onto your account, and there's information on that page. And then just wanted to, I don't know if you are going to talk about this later, but the SBA loans. Okay, there are NAR on their website has some information specifically related to realtors on that. However, you can go to www.sba.gov or www.coronavirus.org for more information. And the government is kind of directing people to their lenders, and there's only certain banks, like not all credit unions and not all bank institutions are providing these loans. So you could start by calling your financial provider if you're with a credit union, Shell, or if you're with Wells Fargo or Amegy. Contact them and find out if they are doing those type of loans. If they're not, then head on to sba.gov or coronavirus.org, or you could message us even in this on our page where we're putting the video, and I do have some people that I've already spoken to that are able to assist people at this time in that situation. And just one little snippet, there are tons of questions and information on the site about what if you have to pay it back or if it's just going to be considered a grant. And so there's some rules. So to really dive in there and look, because it is a little, can be misleading that you're not going to have to pay this back. And it is true, but there's certain criteria that you have to meet, like payroll and paying leases on commercial property. So just go, make sure you read through all of that, but also the lender that you choose that will help you with the loan should have information on that. And that's all the information I have. Right
Okay. I have a few other things I'd like to share with you. Many of y'all know that last week, about a week and a half ago, there was a change in credit scores for FHA loans. And the first word that went out to everybody said FHA was going on the credit scores. First of all, as a clarification, FHA doesn't actually set the credit scores. They are done through investors and the mortgage companies that are doing the FHA type loans. There's rules that they go by, and they kind of set the credit scores for the different loans that they're working with on FHA. Another thing is there's been talk that there was no more down payment assistance out there. There are still some programs out there with certain lenders that have some down payment. A lot of companies have decided to step back away from that, and a lot of them had to step back because the credit scores don't line up with the down payment assistance. So if your buyer really does need some down payment assistance, you may need to look around. But there is one thing for sure. The credit scores that people were getting approved on 580, 600, 610, 620 and stuff like that, that is almost a thing of the past for the time being. What I've heard from most lenders is the few of them are still out there at 640, but most of them are running 660 and 680, which means your buyers have to be a lot more qualified. One of the statistics I heard the other day is that there was 77% of the people's credit score that go FHA are on a 670 or lower credit score. So as you know, when you start getting up around 680, there's actually some conventional programs that are available to a buyer. That might be a little safer. If your buyer can go conventional over FHA, you'll probably find sellers finding it more helpful. But if they have to go FHA, just make sure that the credit score is high enough that's not going to cause a problem at a later time. Now, of course, things change. And it could change next week to improve, or it could actually get worse. We don't know. But that's where it is right now today. Something else I wanted to share with you is that the Texas Realtor website sent out an email telling you about certain forms that are available now for us, whether we're residential or commercial sales. One of them is the Coronavirus Independent Contractors and Employment Compensation. So as Misty stated earlier, you may qualify for that, so you can go to that website as well to see if you qualify. there is a new commercial lease form. It's called Commercial Lease Rent Forbearance Agreement. That just came out as well. And that will talk about having some flexibility of rents and how that's going to be taken care of to commercial businesses that are having some difficulty. They've also came out with flyers to share with commercial tenants and landlords. They have, I think, 2 flyers for the buyers and 1 for the landlord, talking about what this is going to do to, how to say it, if they're having some difficulties right now or potential difficulties, this will clear up a lot of issues on that. There are late fees that are been addressed in this new act, in the CARES Act, and you need to read up on that. From my understanding, those late fees that are being charged or not charged have to do with what kind of loan. If there is a loan on the property, if it's a government type backed loan, it's going to be more difficult for a landlord to charge fees or even start a foreclosure or eviction process. So make sure you know this, it's not one glove fits all hands, okay? So there's different things that you need to know and understand. And that brings up the question, well, what if somebody owns the property free and clear? Well, they may not fall under that act, but the governor, as you know, kind of made it a point to tell folks that they need to take a deep breath and just kind of relax on the eviction process, because I think the judges are going to be a little bit more lenient during this time of a crisis in our real estate market. So that's something interesting to take in consideration. There is something that you might be interested in. Also, Texas Realtors had a link for some free ethics training. It's a national code of ethics, and there's some free training online that you can take. They're coming up. You can see registrations. We're going to be having one for April 23rd, May 5th, and May 19th. One last form that I saw that came across, it's a new form that if you have not seen it yet, it's a very interesting form that I think could be very helpful for both agents as well as buyers and sellers. It's called a model COVID-19 certification of property. And this is something that buyers and sellers can fill out about folks that have maybe come in contact, if they're having difficulties with any colds or breathing and stuff like that. This would be something that you might want to look into before you start showing property to buyers as well as sellers that are putting their house on the market. And this could be for inspectors, appraisers, contractors, anybody that comes in contact with buyers and sellers on showing properties. This is and this just came out. This is also a Texas Realtor form that just came out recently. You may see that when you pull up on the MLS, it shows you the 4 new forms that have come out. And that would be one of the 4. I think it's actually the last one on that list. So take a look at that. It's a neat form. So Misty, I think you had several things you wanted to share with us about tips that might be helpful right now for realtors.
Yes. And so to keep us sharp, to keep us in the know during this downtime, one of the things, actually, Troy, you had mentioned, yours is to contact everyone in your database via phone.
Yeah, let me explain to you. I realized the other day, when you start scrolling down through the alphabet, how many customers you actually have in your phone. You've got probably hundreds like I do. Some of them I haven't talked to in months or even years. So what I did, I started calling, started in the A's and started calling, and I'm trying to do 5 a day. Sometimes I do more, sometimes 1 or 2 less, but I'm calling every day somebody in my base. So you realize if you can just do 5 a day in a week's time, you can reach out to 35 people or more. So if this goes on for another week or 2, I'm going to be able to reach hopefully a couple hundred people that I haven't talked to on a regular basis. That personal touch of them hearing your voice and not having nothing to sell them, not trying to get them to do anything, but just saying, hi, how are you doing, makes a big difference. You can stay in touch with folks.
Absolutely. And also asking them if they need anything or how things are going. Has it affected them? Are they working from home? Have they lost their job? Just to stay in touch and maybe even provide some encouragement for them during this time. And then you look like the hero calling to check on them.
Important.
And so that leads me into mine, which is my email database. I have so many leads from rental listings that I have and regular listings that you get leads from HAR, Texas Realtor, Zillow, and they come in and you haven't talked to them in 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years. I still have these people's email addresses because I would save them per property. And so I'm going to go through and reach out to them and just see, are they in a position to buy now, or where they are, what does that look like? And sometimes the email will bounce back, then you know you can move on and not have to to worry about that. But if they do respond, then you can start adding them to your active list. The next thing is, I know some people do what are called pop buys, and that means you say you have emergencies and you add a cute little note on it and you take it to your client, or most people do it to clients, not prospects, to stay in touch with your sphere of influence. And instead of doing the pop buys, now that we are all at a work from home, that you can do text messages or voicemail messages, and they have apps out there that you can do. You record one text or one voicemail, and it'll go out to a mass quantity of people at one time, and then when they respond, you start responding back to them, and then you're opening the lines of communication, but you're doing it at a mass quantity like you would an e-blast, so you're getting to touch, because there's no way you could dial that many numbers. And so you're leaving, it rings one time, you're leaving a message, and then a lot of times they'll either call back or text back, and it's just a good way to open line of communication. Another thing we can do is get on your education early when it comes upon renewal. I'm very guilty about waiting till the last minute to get classes done. And HAR is offering 35% off of their online classes, because right now they're only doing online classes for April and May. So if you go register for a class, the code to get that discount is HAR35. So it's easy to remember because it's a 35% discount, and HAR, you're signing up for the classes in your HAR dashboard under education. And that's all that I have and wanted to say. I feel like it's a good time to stay. I do want to say something. Stay on your routine. You need to, if you get up at a certain time before this happened, you need to keep the routine, because once we get back to normal, then you'll have stayed in that routine, because 21 days makes a habit, and I think we're already on week 3 now. So if you're setting bad habits, right now is a good time to start to get back to good habits.
That's good. Thank you very much, Misty, on that. You know, friends, we are going through a changing of times, and things will get better, and they'll get back to a norm at some time, hopefully sooner rather than later. So I just want to encourage you to stay positive during this time of what you do. You affect so many people's lives, it's hard to even imagine what that encounters of that reach that you have on helping people. And you're going to be helping them before long again. So, you know, trying to reach out to them through emails, text messages, phone calls, and any other way you can is really important. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. We'll be coming to you again before long with more important information. So from Troy Cothran
and Misty
Bacon, take care.